this edition of UpFront, a monthly program produced by New Hanover County Schools. I'm your host, Ann David. On Friday, July 31st, the New Hanover County Board of Education unanimously voted on Dr. Charles Faust as our new superintendent. He joins us today to get to know you during the segment and to talk to us about starting the school year during this pandemic. Welcome to Wilmington, Dr. Faust, and welcome to New Hanover County Schools.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you here, and we'd like to just know a little bit about you. I know you are originally a North Carolinian, yes, although you're coming to us from further out.
Yes.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to New Hanover County.
Okay. Well, a couple things. I am a father of two. I have two daughters. One will be in 11th grade. I'll have a 7th grader also. My wife will also, we've been married for 21 years. We met in college, and we were both elementary education majors.
Oh, excellent.
I originally thought that, hey, I'll do elementary education minor in English, and I also, I thought I was going to go to law school, and taught, and I always had a love for teaching. So I student taught in 3rd grade. And then took a position as a 4th grade teacher. So I taught 4th grade for the bulk of my career in teaching, and then taught 5th grade. Had a love for math also, so I tutored in algebra and geometry. And the unique part about that was after teaching 4th grade math, I was able to use some of those concepts with students who were struggling in algebra and bring back to their remembrance some of the things they had learned at the elementary level. And then just being able to converse with them about how equations came about and what it looked like. And so it was just at an elementary approach. So students tended to do well. And so then I went on to, I've always thought that, hey, well, if I'm not going to go to law school, then I want to be a principal. And I was very competitive. So the first couple of years, the first year, of course, at that time you had a mentor. And I was always wanting to, I listened to my mentor, that was one of the great things, but I always wanted to teach better. She had all these great ideas, and she was always so creative. And I was always, okay, so how can I do this and make it more of a Charles approach? And so I would do that, and the kids would always do, they would do well. And I'll never forget this one thing, her name was Libby. Libby was doing, we were doing science, and her kids were making a convection oven. And I was wanting mine to actually know not only about the convection oven, but how it worked. And so when they were able to apply it to, questions or whatever they were doing, and so they were ready to build the convection oven. And I was like, we're not going to build it first, we're going to learn about it. And so the great part about it is once they actually understood it, they knew where the convection in the circles and how the heat and all those things came about. So it was always just fascinating for me to see young people learn.
Well, that's so important because I feel like you're approaching students from all their abilities to learn.
Absolutely.
And if they understand how it works, it's
Yes.
been my experience with my own children,
Yes.
they remember it for a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So that's an
Absolutely.
excellent approach.
Absolutely. And I'll never forget, so I went on to be an elementary principal, and then was there for about 4.5 years, and got a call it was like one June from the superintendent at that time who was in Houston, and he wanted to come and learn more about our reading program. And so one of the things that I am really big on is for students to be able to read. It's very important for students to be able to read and read on grade level. And I know there's a confidence. So sometimes you have what's called the staccato. So it's like, or that robotic reading at the young kids. So we would look for fluency. And so one of the things we did, we were doing DRA, so it was a reading program where we tested kids and they put them on different reading levels. And I think at that point it's like a 3 or 4 was grade level. Mm-hmm. And in order for we call it the summer slide, so that meant that the kids would fall back. We didn't want kindergartners or anyone to fall back, so what we would do is require 2 more levels above what the actual district was requiring. So let's say, for instance, if the district was requiring 4, we were requiring 6. And so at first the teacher's like, oh my gosh, the requirement is only 4, but why? And so my question to them is, why not? If a student can read, the confidence becomes greater. And oftentimes, students who have some social, emotional, or anxiety about learning, it all stems from what I found. I don't have any research on it. It's just that what I've found is that it stems from sometimes reading and their reading level. So one of the things that we did is we were able to get kids to read so if they were kindergarten, they were reading at the mid-level of first grade when they ended school. And so if there was a summer slide, then they actually fell back to being at first grade level. And so it was just a little math equation that we used and got teachers to understand it. So the kindergarten teachers understood it, first grade, second grade, and so on. And so we applied for reading. It was, I forget what the North Carolina Reading Award. So we had applied for it, and we became runner-up after all of it. It was just so fascinating to have that, and then teachers to see the approach. So it was like their hard work and the push, but then it was like other people were looking at it and saying, hey, your school's like a reading laboratory.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really, really big on the reading concept and making sure that students know how to read. And of course, went on to Houston, where I was going with it, because of that. And they were looking at our reading scores and our math scores. So we took a school that was at that point, it was somewhere in the low 80s, and within 4 years, we were 93.2% proficient.
Oh, excellent.
And we had all subgroups. It was teachers just worked hard. Students worked hard, and parents bought into what we were doing. And so we would explain what we were doing. We would show them, this is where we want your child to be by the end of the year. So we would do what was called goal setting. And so after doing that and having those conversations, went to Houston and did the same thing. And so was a middle school principal there, and they were like, oh my gosh, you're an elementary guy. What's it gonna look like? I said, well, we're gonna run it just like it's an elementary school. And with the different concepts. So we did some of the grouping, we did some of the stations, we did a lot of those things that worked at the elementary level. And within 1 year, we had actually turned that school around. Discipline-wise, academically, and I was there for 3 years before I got another promotion. It was a school that the state was going to take over, and within 3 years we became a full authorized IB school.
Excellent. Now IB, explain that to parents.
Yes, International Baccalaureate. So we have a program here at one of our high schools, and so we were middle years. So middle years is 6th through 10th grade technically. And so we were 6th through 8th. And so the community latched onto it, took advantage of it. And so we fed into one of the more affluent high schools, but we were like 90% free and reduced. And it was just amazing to see and to know that we had the student ambassadors. And so when the International Baccalaureate team came from Maryland to do our site visit, at first they're like, you're pushing it, you're going really fast, why are you going so fast? And I was like, they have to do this. We have to make something for our kids and for our community. And so by the end of the day, after they had met with our student advisors and the students had talked about it and they'd done all of these other, it was student-led, so all the adults, I told the adults step out. We had given them the introduction. We let the students guide the tour. The ladies, I'll never forget, they were like, oh my gosh, like this is really what it's all about. And so it was just really great to hear about that. And so went on to supervise middle schools and high schools in Houston. And we did some really great work. And it was basically about getting people to see potential. And that's what I do. It's like everyone sitting in a classroom has potential. Every teacher has potential. And sometimes you have to help them find it by asking them, and I always would start with, how do you like to be coached? And that affords them the opportunity to tell me what they like, what they don't like, and if they want to celebrate a certain way, how do they want to be celebrated? And then there's more authenticity because you tend to know the person. And I'll never forget one of the biggest compliments that I had from a teacher when I was supervising, because I would do walkthroughs and give feedback. I would tell the principal, this is the feedback that we need to have with the teacher or give the teacher. And she wrote me a letter at the end of the year. She said, at the beginning, I did not like to look at data. But after you walk in my classroom and giving me more insight and always pushing me on the data, I am more data rich and data friendly with it. And so that was a great thing because it was all about students. And the biggest thing that I want people to understand, I say it, and I've said it before, we as educators should perform as heart surgeons. And so if a heart surgeon has been operating for 8, 10, 12 hours, they never give up on the patient. If the patient codes on the table, they still work hard to bring that patient back. And so my thought, my question and plea to educators is we should be just like that with our students, giving them that first teach, making sure that when they are in front of us, we are working as hard as we can to make sure that they have a fighting chance at a successful education. And when we do that, those are bragging rights of saying, I remember when this student was not able to do this, but now they're able to get there. And so that's literally my philosophy on education is, one, to make sure that every child has an opportunity and a solid opportunity. It doesn't matter where your zip code is, your socioeconomic, you should just have that quality education just as that heart surgeon would do for their patient.
Well, it was so exciting reading about where you've come from and being such a passionate educator as you were. It makes you such an impassioned leader.
Oh, wow. Well,
so just listening to you talk now, I can see that, you get the enthusiasm with the children and you also create the enthusiasm with their teachers. And to make them love seeing data because that shows that you're reaching what you need to.
Absolutely.
And helping the children learn where they learn best. And
Absolutely.
that's just amazing.
Yes.
I'm excited to see that for New Hanover County. All of that is so exciting. I'd like to hear something now about Kansas City. That's where you're coming to us from,
Yes.
and all the things that you did there to improve their school system.
So we did a lot in Kansas City. Kansas City was named one of the lowest performing school districts in the state. And so when I got there, we had to do a real hard data dive, academic dive, and one of the biggest things that we did was rewrite the math curriculum so that it aligned with the state standards. And so that was really hard because they were teaching Eureka math, and so we had to retrain on the Eureka math.
Now explain Eureka math. What is that?
Eureka math is a math, it's actually a program that was used, and so we bought the program and the math book that goes along with it. And so it was at the elementary level.
Okay.
And so our elementary teachers, it was new for them. And it was a rollout, it was a quick rollout. And so we went back and we retrained our teachers to make sure that they got the actual training, because that was the biggest complaint, is that it was a new math program. They didn't really understand how to teach it. And so we did that. We wanted, because my biggest thing was professional development. Because when people are professionally developed or they're trained, then they get the concept. So we started there with the elementary K through 5, and then at the 6 through 12, there were some issues with the math, and we had to rewrite the curriculum. So we had all these moving parts going on at one time.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were looking at every subgroup. So I had meetings with every principal, and we sat down and we had them look at every subgroup and increase 10 percentage points. Instead of looking at it from the whole school and saying, okay, you're going to move from, make up a number, 60 to 80 next year. That sometimes individuals don't know how to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So when we pulled out every subgroup and looked at these clusters of kids, we said, okay, well, if this cluster is at 20%, I need them at 30%. So now you have, let's say, 30 or 40 kids. How do you move those kids 10 percentage points forward? What is it going to look like in their instruction? So we did that. And at the end of the year, the entire district moved 6 percentage points. And then we were hitting double-digit growth points in areas. Oh my gosh, it was amazing, because in the beginning it was a hard push, and I will not say that it was easy for anyone, looking at the state, and when the state is saying, okay, well, you're the lowest, and everyone's always looking at you as the lowest, like, oh my gosh. So we got rid of what I said, the Bless Your Heart curriculum, meaning that, oh, this child came from this neighborhood, they can't do it, or they don't speak English, they can't do it. Those types of things, we had to dispel those myths and let everyone know that this is the curriculum, and we have to introduce it to the individuals as it's written. And so that's what we did, and we pushed hard. We retrained our instructional coaches to make sure they were getting quality feedback, that they were able to teach the subject area that they were working in. The unique part about Kansas, which is beautiful, and I tell them they had the Cadillac version, every school had 2 instructional coaches.
Wow.
And at the elementary level, they were doing something where it's like one was doing like K2 and the other was doing 3-5. So when I got there, I switched. I said, well, do you love math? Or do you love reading? And so what we found out is that some were doing K2, but they're doing reading and math together. And the others were doing 3-5, and they were doing reading and math together. So then we switched it so that if you were a lover of math, you did K5 math. And if you loved reading, and that was your area of expertise, you did K5 reading. And that way it was, you played to your strength.
They were passionate about what they
Absolutely.
were teaching.
Absolutely. And so we immediately saw data and the professional development change. We got principals. We started training principals. Every time there was initiative or any type of training that went on, we trained the principals first. Then we brought in the instructional coaches, and then during their PLCs, they trained their teachers. So there was a systematic approach to how we were going to go at it. That was because, and I think that works in all districts. I just believe that as a school leader, you shouldn't send teachers away to training and you not know how to evaluate the program.
Oh, that's an excellent approach.
And so it was a different way of looking at it, but I just always, and I take all these things I take as when I was a teacher, and when I was a principal, and when I was a principal supervisor. And so when I was a principal, I used to always say things like, I want someone who knows more than I know about the curriculum or about the instructional level or about, student achievement, whatever it is. And that way it comes through training. And so we did all that training, and so then we started getting all of these awards. And it was not that we were doing anything, and I say out of the blue, or it wasn't anything that wasn't planned, and we weren't shooting to get awards. Yes. We were just shooting to make life better for students.
Making a difference with their students.
That's it.
And that's when it works the best.
Yes,
it does.
Yes, absolutely. So the biggest, the thing that we got a national or federal, the national award through, and they only give one to each state. That was the great part. And one of our elementary schools got the early school, the Title I award for growth. And so this past, I think it was March, we went to Atlanta during the Title I conference and received that award for the entire state. And so that was the most shocking award, because out of 265 school districts in the state of Kansas, one school district, one school was able to get that award. And so that was, it was just beautiful. So it just showed teachers, it showed the district,
absolutely,
that what we're doing is right for kids.
And that's so rewarding.
Yes,
That's so excellent. We're going to take a brief break. Okay. And don't go away. After a short break, we'll return and talk more to Dr. Faust and what brought him here to New Hanover County.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
Because you said rude things about my work, I started to question my own voice.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of your negative comments online, I've almost quit doing the one thing that makes me happiest in life.
Because you shared something about me that was private, I felt embarrassed.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Because of you sharing your story with me, I feel comfortable sharing my own.
Because you were there when I was coming out, you helped me regain my confidence.
I'm still here today because of you.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help.
Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Welcome back to UpFront with the Superintendent. We're continuing to learn and have some insight on our new superintendent, Dr. Faust. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And we were, you were going over your career and your path back to North Carolina, and you were just about to tell us what was bringing you back home. So if you would pick up there and kind of give us some insight on that.
So I've always had a love for North Carolina, of course. I left here in 2010, and of course I would just come back and forth through visiting family. And so I had worked here in Union County, and the goal was to come back. And at that time, as a superintendent, but there wasn't anything that was open for me at that time. So went to Headhunter called and went to Kansas and worked there. And then I found out that there were some openings here, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've only been in Kansas for 2 years. And so a really, really good friend of mine, like more or less like a mentor, was like, hey, Charles, I think this is the one for you, and you should really, really consider it. And I was like, but I've only done this since we've gotten so much done here. And then I saw, I was like, well, I did the reading, did the research, and I said, this is good. It's not anything that I can't do. And so went through the process, and my daughters were always wanting to come back. Like they want to be around the grandparents. And so applied for the position, got the interviews, and made a really good connection with the board. And that's where we are. But the biggest thing was, and I'll be honest, looking at where New Hanover County is as a school district, you have a good school district. And my goal was, how do we make it a great school district? And that was probably one of the key things after researching and looking at it. It's like, well, there's a lot of good things going on here. How do we make that a great school district and making sure that individuals do it? And so just researching, then looking at the area of, yes, I've done the turnaround work, but this is different. And I've also done non-turnaround work, and I need for everyone to understand they're two different things. They're two different characters, and I call the superintendent, that's a character, because the leadership roles change in the environment.
Well, explain a little bit about turnaround in case parents are wondering what you mean about turnaround.
So schools that are considered a D or an F and are low performing schools. And so when we say turnaround, we don't want to do a 360, we want to do a 180. How do we get them turned in the right direction where they're in that going towards a C, a B, and hopefully they become an A rated school. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that same type of energy, that charisma, that zeal, all has to be applied to whether you're an A school, a B, C, D, or an F in order to make it work. Because I share with individuals, just because you are an A school, A is in the letter grade, doesn't mean that you don't get to not work. You have to still work hard when doing it. And I don't think everyone understands that. So they just think it just happens.
Right.
But individuals work, they work hard, and sometimes even harder to keep that momentum going, because there's a different type of stress level, at that area. But so coming back here and looking at the data, I was excited.
What parts, first of all, let's talk about what parts that you feel are great parts about New Hanover County Schools.
So I always look at, if you have great high schools, then you have a great school district. And because a lot of times, and I know I'm an elementary person, so please, elementary principals and elementary teachers, I understand it. I know you do the foundational work, I get that. But the high schools are what dictate your, the morale of your district, the growth of your district. That's where it takes place. And so when you're looking there, your school, the high schools are doing well. They're doing good. They're doing really good. And so then of course your middle schools, and I love middle school. I love everything about it. The kids and their up and down, their emotional, I love all of that. And I share with everyone, there's not a high school, you either love or hate high school as a parent. It's like, oh, can we get out? Or I just love it. But I just love the energy that the middle schoolers give. And of course, elementary, I honestly believe when we look here, and the things when I was looking at the data, because I went to the data, and if everyone's like, well, what is his focus? My focus is actually academics. You can only do academics if you understand data, because you have to know what to teach, when to teach, how to teach it, and then why. We have to talk about the why. So at the elementary level, you introduce the foundations. And at every classification, elementary, middle, and high, my goal is to get teachers, principals, community to think about what we call first teach. So the first teach is when you initially introduce the lesson to the students. We as an educational community across the nation have put so much of an emphasis on second and third, so we call it second tier, first tier, so that's the remediation. So we plan for remediation instead of planning to do it right the first time. And so when you do it right the first time, then what happens is students grow quicker. And you as an educator are able to say, you know, I had 24 kids in this lesson or whatever, I teach 150 kids throughout the day. I had 80% of them to get it right the first time versus, oh, I taught 150 kids and only 20% of them, so I've got to go back and reteach. We should not concentrate the first time on reteaching or planning for the reteach. We should plan for the authenticity of the very first time that we teach. So those are the things that I was looking at, and I was saying if they were to make this small, and I don't like using the word tweak, if they were to look at it from this angle, then we could do more with our students, and then you could turn good into great. And so that's where I want to focus, looking at how do we produce students that are going to Ivy League schools? How do we produce students who are going to right into their career, and looking at those careers that are embedded here in the community that will make them successful and make the community successful. And looking at this, we're here at the ocean, we're here at the water. What are some of those things that can be done that they're doing across the nation with water testing and marine science or drilling offshore, those types of things? What are they doing, and are there any programs that we have that will actually provide that emphasis for our kids? And I was afforded the opportunity to go to Nashville last October, and they were talking about different things for students. And one of the things about construction is they count the quality or the production of construction based on how many cranes you have in the air. And so we were downtown Nashville, and we were having breakfast, and I looked up and I saw this guy walking across this crane. I don't know how high in the air he was, but I have a fear of heights when it gets up that high. And
I agree completely with you on that.
And they were telling me, it's like that person who handles that crane, who gets up and sets it, they have a 6-figure salary. And it's through CTE, and it's through just the associate's degree that person has. I was like, wow. Because everyone assumes that you have to go get a 4-year degree in order to have a 6-figure salary. But this person was driving a crane on a construction site, and then there were some welders, and how that took place. It's like, so those are things that I look forward to making sure, or enhancing. I'm sure we have those things, but just enhancing. And what do we do, and how do we pair with our local university here, and how do we pair with our community college here, and how do we pair with some individuals who could pose as a mentor for some of our mentees here.
That's such a great thing, because it allows all the students to find a success in something they love and enjoy.
Absolutely.
To make money, to have a family,
Yes.
and to be active members of our
Yes,
community.
absolutely.
So that's a wonderful objective, and I love that you said, let's teach it the first time.
Yes.
I think that's great, because that gives students success right off the bat, and not feel like that it took them extra time to get there.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, that's excellent. What do you feel like is going to be the most difficult thing to work on?
So in every area, every arena, there's a new person in charge. And what are they going to do, or what are they going to take away? So building the trust. And as I said early in a conversation, trust is earned. And trust is always, individuals have to understand that as a leader, not you the leader, but sometimes there are pockets who may have their own thing that they want, but how do we make sure that our district is progressing? So I believe that one of the hardest things in any area is being the new kid on the block and trying to find out what is right and what we need to repair. And so we'll take some small, what I call bite-sized wins. We'll look for bite-sized wins, those little small things that we can to gain trust of our community, gain trust of our students, gain trust of the educators and staff that work in the district. And bite-size by bite-size, we will get there. But moving a school district from, and right now we're sitting at, when I looked at the numbers, we were at number 18 in the state of North Carolina. Moving from 18 to 10, I will say that'll be easy, because that is a goal.
Excellent.
But the tough part will be getting people to understand why, understanding the why.
Right. Well, that's often the hardest part.
Yes.
What do you feel like you'd like parents to know? Because this show is watched by mostly parents and community members, but parents that may be having children starting school for the first time, or may have children starting high school. But speak to the parents. What would you like for them to know about their new superintendent?
Oh, so I can speak from the parent side and the superintendent.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Since you have students in school.
Yes,
so.
I understand the anxiety from the parent side. Even this morning with my own daughter, and she had the wrong code, and my wife was trying to help her, and she was calling me. It's like, wait a minute, let's go back and let's read the email, and what does it say? So I get all of that from the parent side, and then from the leader side is we understand that there's no roadmap for this. That we do. We want everyone to understand that there's no secret formula. I think there's no golden ticket. We are moving into an area where we call uncharted waters, and we are doing what we believe is best for students and to educate them in this arena. One of the things that I will be able to say, and I can say from the parent side, is do not force it. Sometimes we need to step away as parents and allow our child to read it and reread if it's on the virtuals, like what's going on, how long should they be on there? Send those emails to your child's teacher. If they're struggling, or if you believe that they should not be on there for 6 to 8 hours a day, it's not going to be the same as sitting in front of a teacher. So we want to make sure that parents understand that it's not the UpFront, the place you're going to, if it's, whether it's Seesaw, Google, whatever platform that they're using, it will look a little different than that face-to-face approach. So understand that. We know that parents are not the teachers. We know that's not your skill set. It may be your skill set, it may be what you do, but that's not what we want. But we want you to give us the opportunity to slow it down for you. And if parents have questions, please not just beckon them to contact the schools and say, I'm struggling on this. And our goal is to work on some FAQs for parents. Because I get it, my wife works, I work, and we have kids who are at home trying to do the exact same. So I'm in the same boat as parents. And so I honestly understand some of the frustrations, and what I will say to this is our teachers are experts, and allow our teachers to converse. They may not get the immediate response, but they should be able to give you some insight on it.
It's always good to have that perspective, because having students in the system, you do have that unique perspective.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take another brief break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how the rest of the school year looks to progress, and any other advice for parents and community members. So don't go away. We'll be back with some of those goals for the school system and things that the superintendent feels will be challenges and priorities for the upcoming school year. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool.
To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Days, months,
Hey, I'm Jim from across the street.
years,
I'd like to give you this.
a lifetime can rush by without realizing what we're missing. We lose some of the best moments, some that may never repeat,
Come on.
or detach from people around us. Our loved ones grow used to this pattern, but it doesn't have to be that way. We have a choice to take action. It's never too late to live a full life again. Hear how many of us Vietnam veterans have managed our mental health and reconnected with our families. Visit maketheconnection.net to find out more.
Women Heart is in a race to save lives. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. It's 80% preventable if you know the facts. Millions of women are living with or at risk of different types of heart disease, like AFib, which is a type of irregular heartbeat. It affects both women and men, but women with AFib have a higher risk of stroke and death than men. Get educated. See your doctor. Know the facts. Diet and exercise are key to staying healthy. Know the risks. Women Heart does something really unique, solely focusing on women and providing peer-to-peer support. To win this race, we all have to do it together. Our hearts beat as one. To learn more, visit womenheart.org.
Welcome back to UpFront with the Superintendent. I'm Ann David, and we've joined by Superintendent Dr. Charles Faust. We'd like to welcome him back and start talking about the new school year. It's so hard to believe this year has just gone by so quickly that we're starting a new school year. And I know it's difficult to not think of anything but the pandemic and how we handle that. Your advice to parents was wonderful. That certainly gives them some insight. Would you mind now speaking to outside of the pandemic, what are your plans for the coming school year? Things that may be priorities for you, and also, the obvious challenges, but some other challenges you may feel.
So one of the things that I definitely want to first work on is setting up community conversations. That's what I definitely want to do, literally at each of the high schools, or it can be out in the community where I can talk with parents, talk with students, answer their questions, answer any of their concerns face to face. That's the thing. I know we'll be doing some of those through Zoom, but it still doesn't give that personal approach. So that'll be one of the things. The other thing is more so working with some of the high school students in creating what I have is a superintendent student council. And so those are students who are 5 students from each of the high schools. And it does not have to be and I prefer it not to be the top 10%. I like a mixture. So at each school having a representative of 5 students from just any walks, and I allow the counselors to choose those. I don't choose them. And so getting that approach, because you get a fresh approach. Then I am wanting us to look at how do we may already be doing this, reading buddies with our elementary students, that K2. And so there's a program that we were working on in my other school district where we had individuals who would come once a week and they could read. They could actually do it through video, where we would turn the screen off for the kid so you couldn't see the kid, but the kid could see the adult, or you would come to school and sit down and just taking 30 minutes of your time and each week reading with a struggling reader.
Oh yeah.
And so those are some of the things, and then of course at the middle school, looking at some ways to help parents integrate middle school. Middle school is tough.
Yeah.
It is really tough, and how do we do it, and how do we do it successfully? Because what happens, and I'll say this as a parent, teacher, administrator, oftentimes parents believe the older the kids get, the less they need to see them. That's not actually true. In the elementary world, you get all the support, parents are there often, and then when we go to middle school, it's like, oh, hands off, they've got it. Well, that's when we actually need them the most, in that middle school, because kids are trying to navigate through this different life. They are moving from, I call it an older child, to this adolescent, and it's a lot to weigh in on at such a young age. And so we want to encourage parents to step back in to the middle school arena and be more visible. And they may be, but I just know that a lot of times the kids are probably like, no. But it's needed. It's needed for our parents. And then, of course, at the high school, one of the things that I definitely want us to look into at the high school, I know we're part of the UNC system, and so we send a lot of our students to our UNC schools. Looking at how many of our students are actually going to any of the Ivy Leagues or the D1 schools. There are some things that I'm privy to, of how to get students into Ivy Leagues and D1 schools, that I'm not sure that would be that good to moving to great. And looking at our students and making sure that they have those opportunities, and never thinking that, oh my gosh, I can't do it, because I've seen students across the country in some of the schools where I've worked in go to these Ivy League schools. And so those are big things, but they're actually small components that will address our community, our parents, and more so our students.
I think that's so important because if you believe that they can, then sometimes the students can believe it themselves and will take those steps that way. They just need the encouragement in that direction.
Absolutely.
So I think that the higher the goals,
yes,
the better for the students.
And I also look forward to having our students visit colleges. Of course, we have one that's right here in front of us, and 4th grade, 7th grade, making sure that it's introduced to them at an earlier age, so that, and letting our parents know about FAFSA. Some of the things that we don't talk about is how do we engage parents in making sure that they understand what's needed of them. Everyone has to complete FAFSA.
Yeah.
And so having a FAFSA night.
Oh yeah.
And
FAFSA can be so daunting.
Oh my gosh, yes.
To someone who knows what they're doing with it.
Yes.
Much
exactly.
less students or parents.
Yes.
But I guess the whole pandemic has kind of made parents realize that we're not as tech savvy as we really think we are.
Yes.
And we really need to be, even with our elementary school students, because with something like this coming up, and then the learning opportunities with our middle and high school students revolve so much around technology.
It does, and just engaging more after, and I know the pandemic will not last forever. Right now it feels like it because we're in it, but it won't last forever, and we will be looking at what does the new normal look like, and in that we will help our parents and our students navigate towards getting back into the classrooms and looking at it after this 9 weeks is over. What will it look like? How will we social distance? And making sure that we create a safe environment for our adults in the building and our young people.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many challenges to look forward to, from transportation to
actual
classroom. I'm sure you have quite a bit on your plate.
yes, and so we'll be looking at all those, and sitting down and talking with transportation and food nutrition to hear their ideas of what they're doing, and of course talking with our the county health director, talking with our nurses here in the district to get that medical, because I share with everyone, I'm not a scientist. I'm an educator, I'm not a scientist, I don't pose as one, and I would never want to put anyone's life in jeopardy. And so the biggest part right now is what I would share with everyone is make sure you wear your mask, and try to not play with it, but definitely wear the mask, and making sure that when we come back, as we are, and I'm sure we'll come back and we'll have to wear masks, that we will keep that mask on.
Absolutely. And I know it's a lot of new regulations, but it's similar to other things we ask students to do when they come to school. So
Absolutely.
It's for their own health and well-being. Is there anything you would like to reach out to the community to encourage them to come up and help schools and help educate our students? I know you spoke a little bit about internships and things like that.
Yes, I definitely would love for our businesses to, and we may have, and these are things that because of COVID I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and face-to-face and talk with principals one-on-one. But I'd like to know, what are our local businesses? How involved are they? We want to definitely engage them with our school district. We want to make sure that they have a part in educating our students. And one of the things that we tend to not do as educators, and I'm not knocking any specifics, but we don't always engage with the community and say, how can you help us? So we have 5 high schools and 5 different programs, and I would love to know how, and we look at our plans. Our high school, each school has a plan, and looking to see how much of the community engagement goes along with what are your specialties, and getting that buy-in, because I think that would prove and provide so much expertise for our students, because it's important for them to actually see someone who is actually in that profession.
Oh yes. Make that logical step
it
from
does.
education to,
Yes.
to putting it to
Yes.
work. Yes.
Even at and I say introducing it as low as the elementary level, so they can start to think about careers, because we tend to wait to high school to align with a specialty. So if we start thinking about it at the elementary level, then students get at the middle school, when we were doing schedules, we called it the wheel, where they got to sample certain things. If they get to sample it at the different elementary schools, then they've kind of gotten an idea of what type of career I would like to do.
And the things that they enjoy early on.
Absolutely.
It also, I think it encourages them to want to learn, because they know where their path is and where they're encouraged to go and to do something that's fun.
Yes.
I think when you were first talking about when you were teaching to associate with knowing how to make the oven work before just using it.
Absolutely.
I think that's so important, because I think students then realize, hey, all this education is heading me towards this that I love to do.
Absolutely.
And will make a living. So I think that's important motivation for students. And it seems to dovetail with everything you want to do, which is amazing. As we wrap up, is there anything you would like to share with the community, with the students or parents?
Absolutely. Parents, students, I'm here. I am so excited to be a part of the school district. I'm proud to have my family here, and I look forward to working with all of you. The good, the not so good, we'll figure it out and we'll make it better. And then just having an A1 school district. Our goal is, of course, to be the #1 school district in the state. And I think we have the right people here to do it.
That's so exciting. Well, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And so happy for you to get started. When is your first official day?
So my first official day is September 1st.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'll be hitting the ground running.
Yes. Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
And you said your daughters were already starting class.
Yes. Yes.
And but you'll be moving probably by the time the show airs.
Oh, yes.
You will all be here. So that's so exciting. We ask our parents to be sure to send in questions to you.
Please.
Would you like to encourage, questions to come to the website for the show, or, anything that you would like to relate as far as that goes before we close out?
So questions, I'm open. I would definitely, I want parents, just to ask the questions that are on their hearts. And I believe that if we start there, we can definitely achieve. And oftentimes, people don't ask questions and they just assume. So I would prefer them ask, so they can get an honest answer, so they don't have to go and assume anything.
Rumors tend to stir up problems.
Yes,
so
yes.
It's always good to have them ask you that question.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure between social media and this program, you can answer questions and try to keep everybody headed on a positive track, so we can help our students be the best in the state. That's the exciting thing, to be the best school district in the state.
Yes.
Well, we certainly are so glad that you came with us today and shared everything. I think we found out so much about you and so many of the exciting things that you've done in the places that you've worked before, and we're certainly glad to have you back in North Carolina.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
To share your talents and your skill here. So we're excited that you're our new superintendent here in New Hanover County.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, this wraps up this edition of UpFront with the Superintendent. We welcome Dr. Faust and look forward to having him in his tenure here at New Hanover County Schools. He will continue to join us here on UpFront with the Superintendent each month. If you have a question or a topic you'd like for him to discuss, please email michael.mcguire@nhcs.net. And on behalf of Dr. Faust and the staff here at NHCS TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next month for another edition of UpFront with the Superintendent.